gonna try again. I don't know if this is gonna work or not. Live stream while I'm driving again. It disconnected earlier, so we'll try again. But I was watching YouTube the other day and came across like the Go-Go's. You guys remember the Go-Go's? The all-girl band? We Got the Beat? Anyhow, they did some kind of live performance, or not live, I guess it was pseudo-live. It was from the year 2020, I guess when COVID was still, had just started. And the Go-Go's apparently did like a web-connected show where they were all remote, they were all and you got to see them all the Go-Go's, and start to feel really old. I mean, they still got the beat, they were still singing, but I decided to look them up, because I remember them when I was a kid, when I was in, they came out when I was in junior high, in the early 80s. They were older than me because, I was still in junior high and they were grown-ups singing. So I looked them up and they're like, I think they're in their 60s. They're like in their mid-60s or later. I think Belinda Carlisle, I think it's like 70 or something. I don't know. I need to double check that. Fact check on it. But yeah, they've gotten old. And I was thinking, if the Go-Go's are all old, then I'm getting old. So it's kind of interesting to look back at. It's weird because like the 80s, people still talk about the 80s like it was just yesterday. It's very strange to think that the 80s was like more than 40 years ago. 40 years ago was the 80s. So maybe the Go-Go's are probably in their mid-60s. I don't know. But I did get sad because a lot of the rock groups and stuff I grew up watching, like Van Halen, Eddie Van Halen, he's gone. Meatloaf is gone. It seems all the actors and performers and stuff that we grew up watching in the 80s are like dropping. Maybe even some of our friends, family. I get really sad because I'm like, wow, to me, those memories are still fresh in my mind. And, I still watch reruns of MacGyver. I remember watching that when I was a kid. And, MacGyver now is old. I look at like my kids and stuff, and I think, I feel kind of a little sad for them because I look at the things that they have nowadays, and some is more exciting, like the computers, robotics, even our telephones, or we don't even call them cell phones. They're smart. They're not just cell phones now. They're smartphones. They're basically handheld computers, even more powerful than the stuff they had on Star Trek. Because now you have the entire database, because you're all linked up. You could just say, hey Google, what is, and then Google tells you, or Alexa, or Siri. You have basically the knowledge of mankind at your fingertips. That's what we have nowadays. And the children nowadays are all growing up with that. And I look at the stuff we do and some of the stuff that makes money and, what people deem important, and I'm just baffled. It's like some of the biggest earners nowadays are the fake video, the fake content producers, where they literally set up their camera and fake a scenario. And it's so fake because, one, the camera's right there when it's catching them being kind or doing some kind of weird stuff like running up to strangers and bopping them upside the head or stealing their hat or something like that. And those videos go viral. And those content producers make a lot of money on it. And I'm like, okay, so you have people like this making more money than a doctor Or the fact, now on a personal scale, I can look at it and say, me just babbling on here on this video, I make a little bit of money. I don't make anywhere near those people who set up the camera and go up and then hit someone on the head, which I think they're all in on it, okay? But I'm pretty sure they're all in on it. The camera's sitting there. But or the husband and the wife, they're gonna pull a prank, but there's a camera that just happens to be there. Or the dude, at McDonald's doing a kind act, but there's a camera filming it, and it's from a third person filming it, and all those are set up. But apparently people believe them or something, because when you look at the comments, they say, oh, how kind you are, and blah, 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 blah. And I look at it, I go, are people just stupid? I think children of the 80s, we look at this stuff and we go, my God, this generation are morons. But then I wonder about the children of the 60s. The children of the 60s who basically are our parents of the children of the 80s, children of the 50s and 60s. And I wonder what they thought of us. I remember parents, or older people always saying, the youth of today, they have no clue. And now I look at the youth of today and I feel the same. I'm like, we seem to be repeating a pattern. And the other thing is, it seems like people nowadays know less and less how to function. Like some of the videos, the tutorials you see them doing, it's like stuff that you would think everybody knows how to do already, but I guess they don't get taught anymore. I don't know if parents aren't teaching, and they grow up, the kids nowadays have to grow up watching YouTube. I mean, when you think about it, some of the most popular YouTube channels are family channels. They're, it's just a family showcasing them, the husband, the wife, and their kids. And they don't even really do anything special. It just shows their life, like they go to, they do fun stuff, like they go to Disney or something, and then the audience, from what I guess, are mostly young kids, which is kind of a sad state, actually, because the only real reason I can see a kid watching those videos is because their own family isn't like that. They watch that stuff and they wish their family was like that. Of course, some of those families, they do crazy stuff like they'll fill the living room with balls, colored balls and stuff like that, and do that as a gag when the husband or the wife comes home, or some other crazy stuff. So maybe people watch it, the kids watch it for entertainment, but they make money out of doing that. It's like doing nothing except having lots of money to buy balls and then spread it all over your living room, and your family becomes a hit. And there was a case of this one family who faked a pregnancy and then faked a miscarriage. Yeah. So I'm shocked. I'm shocked that those channels do very well. They have literally like more than 10 million, maybe 50 million subscribers. And then their views, each video that they post usually get at least 500,000 to 10 million views. 10 million views on one video. That's more than my entire channel. They make a lot of money on it. The other thing that's making money right now, and it's kind of sad, is the situation with the Ukraine and Russia. Yeah. I see a lot of on my feed, because I've been watching, I haven't been watching, but just every once in a while checking in on the situation, on the status of the Ukrainian war with Russia. And you see all these bloggers on from Russia, and their channels have exploded because, people obviously are curious and want to see what's going on. But one of them was talking about he still makes money. Like, YouTube has not blocked their income. So they're making money Now, they're not necessarily talking about the war ending, they're just showing Russian life. So I guess people are curious about it, you know, but they make a lot of money. I learned some stuff about Russia, like I learned that the average salary that they make there, most of the people there, and they make about $500 a month, you know. What was appalling to a lot of Westerners was when, one of the guys was showing food prices, gas prices and stuff, and it's lower than in America. It's like, they were complaining about it being expensive, but it's like buying meat, let's say buying steak or something. They might pay like $2 for it or something like that, $2 or $3. Or gasoline, but they buy it by the liter. But it might come out to like $1.50 or $2 a gallon right now with sanctions and everything. And people were freaking out and saying, how can they be so cheap over there? It's because countries price stuff based on what the people make. If the average Russian salary is $500, per month, then $2 or $3 steak is kind of expensive. So I think about it too. It's like I think about all the people in Thailand and how they can afford cell phones, but I'm pretty sure it's cheaper than $50 a month. The interesting thing is, like, as a child of the 80s, we remember the Cold War. We remember when it wasn't just Russia, it was the Soviet Union, and they were the biggest enemy of the United States. And as a child of the 80s, I was a military brat. That was our big enemy. We were in Europe. My family was stationed in Europe, in East Germany. There was an East Germany and a West Germany. No, we were in West Germany, not East Germany. We were in West Germany, helping to defend against the Soviet Union in East Germany. So East Germany was part of the Soviet Union. And I remember being a child of the 80s when the wall fell, when they took the wall down, the big celebration. And then, I thought at the time, it was like surreal. It was like unbelievable, and since that time I had made some Russian friends, and it was interesting because, we were talking about, was it glasnost, and I think what that other word was. Glasnost, and there was something else. But all that started with like Reagan and Gorbachev, and then afterwards, I guess the Soviet Union fell. I think once the people in the Eastern Bloc nations experienced freedom to an extent and capitalism. And I still remember when the first McDonald's opened in Russia, and how it had like huge long lines. And I'm thinking, wow, all these Russians are lining up for McDonald's. But now they're all closed. It's like going backwards. So it'd be interesting to see how this all turns out. I think the whole situation is rather messed up. But, that's on the world scale. But if you look just domestically, things are messed up. It's like the reality of 2020 is beyond Mad Libs, or remember Mad Magazine? Not Mad Libs, but Mad Magazine. If Mad Magazine was trying to forecast future and they wrote all this stuff down, we would all laugh because it's unbelievable, It's unbelievable that as we advance in technology and medications and things like that, that we actually can have a world pandemic. We talk about how much medications have progressed, how science has progressed, and then when you look at the behavior of what happened, just even in the United States, not just looking at the whole world, but even just the United States, if you scale it down, the behavior during a pandemic situation was unbelievable. It's almost like a cartoon. It's like, how can we let this happen? And this situation right now with the world and everything going on, I find it hard to believe that it's happening and people aren't able to do anything about it or are not doing anything about it. So, I don't know. I think about it, and I think about all the dead, if you want to call it that, the stars of the 80s and all those people that are dying. And I think to myself, maybe this is God's way of preparing you for death. You start to look and you start to say, you know what, all the good music's gone, all the good actors are gone, because I haven't really connected with the new musicians and the new actors and actresses, entertainers, and famous people. You know, it's like at a certain point, a certain age, you start to just tune out. I don't know if that's true of everybody, but it's like true of me. I started to tune out half the time. I don't even know who that. I don't even know who that is. And my son has to tell me, explain to me who that is. And I think to myself, I'm like, oh, so they're famous. But all the people that are famous from my generation, they're all sick and old and dying, you know, like Michael J. Fox. Look at him. You know, it's like Mary Ann. Remember Mary Ann from Gilligan's Island? She just died recently from COVID complications. All the people that I knew and grew up, Prince. I suppose their music lives on, but the new stuff, I try to listen to some of it and I like some of it, but I don't really connect with the I don't connect with most of the musicians. I like their music, some of them, like I like Katy Perry, I like Taylor Swift, you know, but even Taylor Swift's becoming older. I think she's in her 30s now. So, you know, it's like I don't know any of the new groups. But you get celebrities like on YouTube and Twitter and what's that? TikTok especially. You have all these celebrities that I've never ever seen or heard really famous. You know, and the crazy thing about it is they make a lot of money. And here's what's really crazy about these celebrities: they don't need agents. That's the one weird or cool thing about the present, is that honestly in the old days you had to comply with the system that was established by the professionals. Like, for example, if you wanted to become a famous celebrity, you had to kiss butt and do all sorts of crazy stuff with the powers that be, so you could appear in a movie or an ad, you know, you didn't even start in a movie, you started with advertising, commercials and stuff like that. But nowadays, any Joe Schmo with a camera and a distinct personality can actually become famous or infamous. There's a guy, I think he's like from South Africa, that, you guys know the dude I'm talking about, right? The black dude. All he does is react to videos. So you don't even have to produce your own content. You can grab other people's videos and then put your face next to it and react and make these faces and stuff, and you become famous. So you don't have to do anything but react in a way that makes people laugh or is memorable, and you become a celebrity for reacting. Think about that. So you don't have to have real talent other than the talent of making people laugh with your faces and stuff like that, or your expressions. That guy makes so much money now, and he's from South Africa, where I think he was from. It's really poor. So, and he gets paid in, like, I think US dollars, because, you know, all these advertisers everywhere, they pay based on the platform, I guess, of where it broadcasts from, you know. And his stuff is seen in the United States, and I know it gets US dollars. So It's very interesting world that we live in. And if you're a child of the 80s and you're like me, you're probably saying, take me back to the 80s. Things were a little bit more predictable, you know? I mean, there were always weird stuff, like, remember AIDS, HIV, AIDS? Nowadays, they actually can pretty much cure it, you know? But back then, it was the big pandemic, you know? It was the big thing that was taking people out. My brother died from it. So, you know, it's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. I just saw, I can't really read everything that you guys are typing, but somebody was asking me how old I am. I'm ancient. Honestly, biologically, I'm 55. I'll be 56 coming up. My local age in America starts in 1974. That's when I immigrated to the United States. Back in peace and love. Remember, peace and blacks and whites got along, you know? And people could make fun of other races, and they weren't considered racist. And Archie Bunker was popular, was one of the top shows on TV. For those of you who are young, look up Archie Bunker. He was like a racist dude. And then you had the opposite, which were also bigots, the Jefferson. Remember George? Was it George Jefferson? He hated white people. But anyhow, so if you hate white people, are you bigoted? Or does it only apply if you hate black people? And, you know, people used to make fun, but it wasn't, I guess back then people weren't as sensitive as they are now. Now everything is like, if you're not politically correct, there's a group or a person or something who's going to get very upset with you, and then you're going to be demonized. You can't. I had an incident the other day. You know, I wear the mask when I go out when there's a lot of people, and the guy sitting next to me, I was the only person in the entire place that had the mask, and nobody else had the mask. The guy sitting next to me says, "So, let me ask you something. Do you get upset when others around you are not wearing the mask?" And I was the only one sitting there wearing the mask, and everybody else wasn't wearing a mask. I said, "No, I don't care. I don't care what they do." And he says to me, he said, he had it. 2 weeks later, he was dead. And then he said, well, your buddy probably had all sorts of issues and stuff with his blood and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, and I said to him, I said, no, he was one of those health nuts, you know. He was eating keto diet and keto. Is it keto or keto? He was one of those health freaks. And, you know, he believed all the hype. And when he got it, he died 2 weeks later. But that's not the main reason I do it. The main reason I do it is because I would rather take the least amount of exposure to danger that I can. Now, in life, you're always going to be exposed, no matter what you do. Even taking the medication, you could get sick from it, you know, taking the vaccination. But you got to kind of weigh. It's like a gamble, and everybody has to make their own decisions and their own choices and live with those consequences. But in the military, if I knew that there was a potential for them to shoot poisonous gases at us, give me that damn gas mask. I'll put it on. And say, well, it's an old World War II era gas mask. I don't care. Give it to me. I'm going to put it on. I don't want to be taking unnecessary risk, I guess is the thing. I mean, you got to take a risk, but you got to weigh between the two. Now, as far as the booster, I still haven't gotten it. You know, they recommend at least a third booster. I haven't gotten it just because. If I was going to travel, I might take it just because I think I may have more exposure. But, you know, Florida's a high exposure area. And people are still being hospitalized. But when I talk about this stuff, it's like surreal to me still. You know, as a child of the 80s, I'm like, I can't even comprehend that this is actually happening and that people are behaving the way they're behaving. And I think to myself, I'm like, maybe we're all doomed. Maybe this is the cleansing of the earth. You know, you think about it and you think, how can people behave in such a manner like they can't even comprehend or understand danger? And then you think about it and you're like, maybe this is nature, Mother Nature, or God's way of cleansing the earth. You know, it's like, you say, well, the people who take the precautions are also getting wiped out. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Maybe the whole race is doomed. So, what's the message in all of this? Well, there's one more thing I want to point out. So I was reading on Facebook, they showed this old man. He was like 80, I think he was like 83 years old. And I guess he married a woman who was 30 years old. And they decided to have a baby. Dude is like 83 years old and decided to have a baby with a 30-year-old woman. That was his wife. So a lot of people are looking down at that because he's 83 and she's only 30. Then they're saying he's being selfish because he's 83 years old and he's having a baby. You know, he's going to be dead before the baby gets old enough to be on its own. And then a lot of people were basically putting down that old man, saying that he was being selfish and all that. I'd like to know what your opinion is. But my thoughts about it is this. Tomorrow is not promised. You know, my friend Stuart died at 50, 51. My brother died at 35. I've seen younger people die. You know. Some people don't even live to past their teenage years. Some people don't even live past their first year. There's really no guarantee on how long you're going to live. Whether you're 10, whether you're 15, whether you're 30, whether you're 50, whether you're 70. There is no promise of how long you will live. And if that old man, first off, I'm surprised he's still able to make a baby at 83. But, woo! But, if you choose to do that, that's your choice. It's your life. You know, I personally, I wouldn't do it because I don't think I would live much longer than 83. I'll be surprised if I live to be 83. So personally, I wouldn't do it, but do I think it's wrong for that man to do it? No, it's his life. And he and his wife decided, you know. He and his wife have decided, and he's a doctor, so supposedly has, you know, good income. So even when if he croaks before the baby becomes self-sufficient, hopefully he'll leave enough income and stuff for the baby to be okay. Maybe the wife can get a new husband or whatever, or maybe just live by herself. I don't know, whatever makes them happy. But honestly, people really shouldn't tell other people how to live. Honestly. Let the man have his child if he wants to at 83 years old. I wouldn't do it, but if he wants to do it, that's his life. And someone say, well, it's better for him to have the child when he's in his 30s. Yeah, he could still die, though. There's no guarantee that the 30-year-old is going to live longer than the 83-year-old. You know, our time in life is never promised. Look at all the people in Ukraine. There was a bunch of people much younger than 83 years old that got killed by a missile or a bomb went off. So don't let age determine what you do with your life. You know, live your life to its fullest. Do what you want as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. Some people might say that old man is hurting that kid. How do you know? Maybe that kid, if that kid that old man made, it didn't even have a life until the old man donated his sperm to make that life. You know, possible. So maybe the kid will be grateful. You don't know the future. I don't know the future. I think it's important to focus on yourself and the people around you and your life and try to give yourselves and your family and friends the best life experience possible versus worrying about other people. I try not to follow too much about the the Amber Heard. People call her all sorts of nasty names, but I try not to follow too much of that stuff. I do feel that it is a messed up situation nowadays, especially with men and women and relationships. It's complicated. I do think that things are kind of skewed against men. Having gone through a nasty divorce myself and being accused of stuff that couldn't be proven because it wasn't true, but also seeing how society reacts, and Johnny Depp, is it Johnny Depp? Yeah, he went through and was found guilty, I guess, on the criminal thing for the divorce. But now on his civil trial, it's coming out that a whole bunch of that stuff was lies and whatnot. But someone's saying that's your life, but the child's life is affected. Yeah, that child's life is affected. Okay, it's like those people, but it's that person's child's life. Here's what I would say: whatever happens, I guess it depends on your beliefs. Like I believe in God, and if you believe in God, then and some people would talk about this. Everything about your life is already written. It's already known. And even in foreign cultures, like in Thailand, you have a thing called destiny. And it's already predetermined to an extent. You have free will, but you sort of don't. You kind of do. You have free will, but your free will is basically what was already preordained. So if someone is going to have a child and the child's going to suffer or whatever, that was preordained. You say, well, what about the crazy killers and stuff? That was preordained. I'm like, so what can you do about it? Don't worry about it. Even in the Bible, it says don't worry about stuff like that. The birds and the bees, they don't worry about things. They just live their life, and they go on and they look for a worm to eat. And I think if everybody did that, you would probably have less people panicking and having anxiety and causing even more grief, for other people. People like to cause grief for others. I go because my son's here. So I'm going to sign out for now. Until next time, everyone, take care. God bless you all. Have a great day now. Bye-bye.